Government Business Notice Number 2, standing the name of Mr Maley to present the Animal Protection and Related Legislation Amendment Bill 2025, Serial 32.
Deputy Chief Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I present a bill entitled Animal Protection and Related Legislation Amendment Bill 2025, Serial 32, and table the explanatory statement. Madam Speaker.
You move that the bill be read a first time.
I move the bill be read a first time.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Correct.
Madam Speaker, I'm delighted to present the Animal Protection and Related Legislation Amendment Bill 2025. The Animal Protection Act 2018 and the Animal Protection Regulations 2022 provides a regulatory framework to ensure animals in the Territory are treated humanely and regulates individuals using animals for scientific research. The current Act and regulations commenced in November 2022 and replacing the outdated Animal Welfare Act 1999. The scope of the proposed amendments to the Act and regulations have been informed by a full legislative review and feedback gathered during a 4-month public consultation program conducted through a Have Your Say process, which concluded in September 2024. This public consultation process resulted in 229 submissions from individuals, universities, racing organisations, legal practitioners, councils, the RSPCA and other non-government organisations. To ensure the Territory has some of the most robust and toughest animal protection laws in this jurisdiction, the proposed amendments to the Act and regulations will be supported by additional proposed amendments to the Criminal Code. These amendments will increase the maximum penalties for failing to provide a minimum level of care, cruelty, and insert a new criminal offence regarding serious animal sexual or other abuse material that is used or intended for sexual or sadistic gratification. The proposed amendments to the Act and regulations also aim to respond to the community concerns with regard to the need to have better animal protection compliance oversight of premises used for commercial purposes, including animal boarding kennels and doggy daycare centres and places used for training and racing animals. My colleague, the Honourable Andrew Mackay, MLA, member for 𝙍𝙬𝙼𝙍, tabled a petition on behalf of 𝙍𝙀𝙇𝙀𝙍𝙬𝙍 into this Assembly on 22 May 2025, seeking greater protection of animals. I personally acknowledge and thank the member for 𝙍𝙬𝙼𝙍 and the community supporters for your contribution and commitment to standing up for the safety and respect that our pets deserve. The amendments of the bill strike a balance between providing modern, efficient and flexible animal welfare compliance outcomes within available resourcing while meeting community expectations that animal protection laws in the Territory are strengthened. The Department of Agriculture and Fisheries has a total of 6 animal welfare officers covering the entire Northern Territory. These officers respond to animal welfare complaints, undertake investigation and manage animal welfare compliance and enforcement action, including prosecution of offenders in court. And I acknowledge some of them up there in the gallery today. So thank you for coming and supporting it. NT Police and select livestock inspectors appointed under the Livestock Act 2008 are also authorised animal welfares under the Act. The Animal Welfare Branch responds to more than 700 complaints each year, with this number steadily increasing year on year. I will now go through key amendments that are proposed in the bill. Madam Speaker, the bill proposes to amend Section 23(1) of the Act to increase the maximum penalties and prison terms where a person fails in their obligations to provide an animal with at least the minimum care for that animal. It is proposed to increase the maximum fine from 100 penalty units to 200 penalty units and increase the maximum prison term from 1 year to 2 years. The bill further inserts a new category of specific minimum level of care offences for less serious offences of offending where a person has failed in their duty to care and for the obligations to provide to that animal. Access to adequate clean water and shelter, a hygienic environment for the keeping of the animal, treatment where the animal is diseased, or injured or suffering, is not confined or restrained in ways that are not appropriate. The animal should be able to move in a way dependent on the animal's age, size and physical condition. It is not abandoned. Abandonment in this case is the normal dictionary definition would apply and would cover situations where a person leaves an animal behind completely. For example, depending on relevant circumstances, may include an owner moving out of a house and leaving the animal behind without arranging for someone to look after it or providing it with adequate food and clean water to sustain the animal. The offences will be strict liability offences with a maximum penalty of 50 penalty units for each of the new minimum level of care offences, with the ability to also issue infringement notices for breaching these new offences. The proposed minimum level of care amendments align with feedback received from the community and animal welfare stakeholders as part of the public consultation process. And I also acknowledge Evie Bark up there as well, but thank you for doing what you've done. The feedback showed that the community wanted to increase maximum penalties for the most serious level of offending while providing additional or lesser offences categories that better aid compliance and enforcement of minimal level of care requirements. The availability and use of infringement notices offences provide strengthened compliance and enforcement tools for the Animal Welfare Branch, offering an alternative to prosecuting while ensuring that more serious offences remain available for the higher level and ongoing animal abuse matters. Madam Speaker, it is further proposed to amend Section 24 of the Act to increase all maximum penalties for cruelty offences from 200 penalty units to 300 penalty units, with the maximum prison term also increased from 2 years to 3 years. Increasing maximum penalties available for the range of cruelty offences is in direct response to the serious and cruelty of animal offences committed by Mr Britton. The increase to the maximums also provides better alignment with the approach in relation to cruelty offences in other states and territories. Madam Speaker, it should be noted that the increase in cruelty offences maximums will classify these offences as being indictable offences to send a clear deterrent message that cruelty to animals are serious offences and will not be tolerated. The increases represent a doubling, in some cases tripling, of the offence maximums that will now be available for such horrendous crimes that were committed previously. Madam Speaker, it is further proposed to clarify Section 24(2) of the Act that prescribes that offence of intentionally beating an animal and causing harm. It is proposed to insert the words "or suffering" after the word harm to better clarify the offence where an animal is beaten and constitutes cruelty. Further, the amendments clarify an offence of cruelty to be used as an electrical device, including an excluded electrical device, against the anus of the animal, as well as the face, the udders, genital, or on the animal less than 3 months old. Madam Speaker, it is further proposed to make clear that regional and community events such as camp drafts and rodeos are not a prohibited animal protection activities for the purpose of the Act. The policy reason supporting these exemptions is that the current operation of Section 32 of the Act makes it an offence for a person to organise or promote a prohibited activity, with a further offence where a person or a member of the public attends a prohibited activity. The intention of Section 32 is to capture illegal activities, including dog and rooster fights, where animals are being used to blood greyhounds, for example. It is not intended to capture regional community events such as camp drafts or rodeos. Madam Speaker, it should be noted that the use and treatment of animals used for camp draft and rodeo events are still subject to the minimum level of care, prevention of cruelty to animals and other animal protection offences available under the Act. Further, Madam Speaker, best practice animal welfare codes of practice and standards are to be inserted into Schedule 1 of the regulations to provide benchmark minimum levels of care standards for those regional community events. Madam Speaker, it is further proposed to insert a new care and protection offence for the possession and use of prong collars on dogs. Prong collars have a series of fang-shaped metal links or prongs with blunted points which pinch a dog's neck when pulled. The inserting of this new offence is a direct response to the community and stakeholder consultation feedback, and with other states and territories already banning or moving to ban prong collars. The new offences will be strict liability offences with a maximum fine of 10 penalty units for possessing a prong collar and a maximum fine of 20 penalty units for the use of a prong collar on a dog being proposed. The proposed maximum penalty range is considered sufficient to deter the use of these harmful devices, with the ability to also issue infringement notices for breaching these offences. Madam Speaker, it is further proposed to repeal and modernise the requirement of Section 34 of the Act to provide clarity as to the requirement to restrain a dog when being transported in the back of a utility or in a trailer on a public street. The offence for failing to properly restrain a dog or secure a dog in a way that causes it unjustifiable, unnecessary, or unreasonable suffering will still be a strict liability offence with the proposed maximum fine of 50 penalty units, with the ability to also issue infringement notices for breaching these offences. Madam Speaker, it is proposed to clarify and provide more flexible authorised officer entry and inspection powers to ensure greater animal protection and enforcement outcomes. The purpose of these amendments is to directly address the community and stakeholder animal welfare concerns, seeking better protection and regulatory oversight of premises used for commercial or business purposes. For example, boarding kennels, doggy daycare, cattle yards, as well as premises used for training and racing animals. The objects of the amendments is to ensure better protection for animal welfare outcomes for animals through increased compliance with the Territory's animal protection laws. Madam Speaker, the bill amends Section 83 of the Act to insert a new entry inspection power to provide that where an animal welfare office inspector believes on reasonable grounds that the premises is being used for either animal training or racing, or the premises is being used in connection with a business involving animals, an authorised officer will now be able to provide advance reasonable notice to enter and undertake an inspection of the premises to ensure the Territory's animal protection laws are not being contravened. Safeguard protections have been inserted to ensure an officer, when exercising these new powers, cannot enter premises or part of a premise used for a residential purpose without consent, a warrant, or in extreme emergencies. As anticipated in a policy guideline, advance reasonable notice in many cases is likely to be 24 hours unless the occupier agrees to a shorter period. The inserting of a reasonable notice before being able to exercise new entry inspection powers aligns with approaches across other states and territories. To support the proposed amendments and assist with increased animal welfare compliance outcomes over time, it is further proposed to insert additional best practice animal welfare codes of practice and standards into Schedule 1 of the regulations, with a focus on boarding kennels, doggy daycares, and the greyhound and horse racing industries. Madam Speaker, it is further proposed to fix an anomaly to require a person to provide proof of their identification when asked by an authorised officer. The purpose of this amendment is to be able to properly identify a person as part of an offence investigation when issuing compliance and enforcement notices. In addition, the bill proposes to amend Section 88 of the Act to insert a new power allowing for the taking of samples from an animal or thing where an officer believes, on reasonable grounds, is connected with an offence. An example may include the need to take blood samples from a racing animal suspected of being supplied with an illegal or unauthorised substance. In 2023, in response to the charging of Mr Britton, the Criminal Code was amended to repeal the old bestiality offence and insert a new broader offence of sexual involvement with an animal, and increased the maximum term of imprisonment from 3 years to 7 years. However, it is now proposed to provide even further offences and protection for animals, including to insert a new offence relating to animal sexual abuse and animal crush material into the Criminal Code, in preference to inserting into the Animal Protection Act. This reflects the seriousness of the proposed offending, including the fact that it is an indictable offence and will better align with the indictable animal sex and indecent material offences. The bill inserted a new Section 125(d)(a) into the Criminal Code, dealing with the production, sale or possession of animal abuse or animal crush material with a maximum term of 5 years of imprisonment. To a largest degree, this offence is based on Section 547E of the Crimes Act 1900 in New South Wales and is the only other jurisdiction to have such an offence. Madam Speaker, the specific term animal crush in the context of this bill is conduct where an animal is crushed, burned, drowned, suffocated, impaled or otherwise killed or subjected to serious injury or torture. Animal crush material depicts, describes or represents this behaviour and is intended or apparently intended to be used for sexual or sadistic gratification. Madam Speaker, the bill proposes to further increase the maximum penalty under Section 208N of the Criminal Code of the sexual involvement of an animal offence from the present maximum of 7 years to a 10 years imprisonment. The amendments to the Criminal Code to strengthen the offences and penalties relating to serious animal, physical and sexual abuse are in direct response to various animal welfare groups and community concerns that tougher penalties should have been available to deter or address extreme cruelty and animal sex offending committed by Mr Britton. Madam Speaker, the bill also makes a range of miscellaneous amendments, including inserting a new specific definition of animal to only apply to Part 4 of the Act to better capture animals used for scientific purposes. For example, scientific research undertaken on wild fish or sharks. The bill further clarifies membership and other Animal Welfare Advisory Committee governance matters, including formalisation the appointment of the animal management in rural and remote Indigenous communities to be a member of the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee. In relation to timing, it is intended that these amendments will be commenced on the day to be fixed by the Administrator in the Gazette. The amendments in this bill demonstrate the government's ability to listen to the community and act in providing stronger animal protection laws to the Territory. Madam Speaker, I wish to convey my sincere thanks on behalf of the Assembly to those dedicated professionals for their commitment to animal cruelty prevention, ensuring animals are treated humanely in the Territory. I am pleased to commend this bill to the House and table a copy of the explanatory statement.
The question is that the bill be read a first time. Those of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The Clerk.
Bill for an Act to amend the Animal Protection Act 2018, the Animal Protection Regulations 2022 and the Criminal Code.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill be referred to the Legislative Scrutiny Committee for a report by the 27th of August 2025.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it.